Good afternoon. This is Trevor Pope working with Tiffany Quinlan. We are Group 8. This week we're going to look at the PL SQL triggers and what they do for us. By definition, what is a trigger? Well, in the PL SQL world, a trigger is literally a stored program that triggers or fires or executes when an event occurs. And so it's looking for a keyword, and when that keyword is invoked, then an event will occur. There's a number of reasons for using triggers in the PL SQL scenarios. Some of these purposes, as you can see, can range from generating derived column values automatically. We can enforce referential integrity. We can use them for event logging and storing information on table access. We can use them for auditing and synchronous replication of tables. We can impose security authorizations, and we can use them to prevent invalid transactions. So how does a trigger work? And you can use them throughout the variations of our programming language. They can be used in DML or database manipulation keywords, delete, insert, or update, for example. You can use them in the database definition language of create, alter, drop again. And then even just in general database operation, you can have triggers that are called upon server error, log in, log on, start shut down events. So the triggers can be used throughout the entire scope of coding. So by classification, the DML or DDL, the DML, the data manipulation triggers, typically are used or fire when you do an insert, update, or delete. They can be row level triggers. So as a row is updated, inserted, or deleted, some event occurs. It can be a statement level trigger. So you can have a trigger that fires at a specific statement aimed at a specific component of your data. On the definition language side, the DDL, you can have triggers fire when you create a change or remove objects in a database. So they are quite broad in their capabilities. This is the basic syntax of a trigger. You create your trigger similar to we create everything else with a create statement or replace. We've got a trigger. You're going to give it a name, and then you're going to define when it's going to be called or executed. So before, after, instead of, insert or update or delete. So these are your DML, DDL trigger keywords. Where, in which table, and then referencing old or is new, or old or new. For which row and which conditions, and then what do you want to happen when that trigger is fired. So you would put your statements in this area right here. So this is the basic syntax. So I'll show you a quick example of how that looks. So we have a table, customers, that has some names, some ages, a place, and some salaries. So in this case, we've created a trigger called display salary changes. So we'll create a replacing the trigger, display salary changes. And when do we want it to trigger? We want it to trigger before a delete statement, an insert, or an update on customers, the table, for each row. And when the new.id is greater than 0. And so what do we want to happen? Well, first we're going to declare a variable called saldiff, which is a number. And then here's our statements. We're going to have a small formula. We want the saldiff to be equal to the new.salary minus the old.salary. So we're taking some salary data from an old table and looking at it compared to a new table, and then we're simply outputting what those salaries are. So the old salary is old salary, new salary is new salary, and then we're going to display that difference that we've calculated in the first part of our statement. So that's the trigger component. And so when we do an insert into customers, we're going to insert ID, name, age, address, salary. So we're going to input, in this case, a 7, CRITI, 22, HP, and 7500. Now that person doesn't when that fires the trigger, we see that that person's new. He doesn't have an old salary, but he's now got a new salary, so there's no difference in it. Now in this case, where we've got an update, we're updating customers, and we're going to say, okay, we'll set the salary. We're going to bump up the person's whose ID is number 2. We're going to bump their salary by $500. So when that event triggers, we're going to see an old salary of $1,500 and a new salary of $2,000, so with a difference of $500. So if we go back to our number 2, so we've we took our ID number 2, they were at $1,500, and we've bumped it up by 500. It's now 2,000. So that's how a trigger works. So we've defined the trigger, and using some DML or DDL here, we've created this equation that went through and updated some things, and then it's updated the tables accordingly. Some helpful commands using triggers. The desk user triggers. It gives some basic information about the trigger, the header and the body. In this case, you can do the select all from user triggers, where trigger name equals before update stat product. And then you can drop a trigger like you drop everything else, drop trigger X. So in review, our triggers review, a trigger is a program that executes when an event happens. It's helpful for auditing or creating event logs, automatically generating data. If it's a table or view, you use a DML trigger. If it's a schema or the database, you're using a DDL trigger. They are going to have a declaration and a trigger body, and they cannot be explicitly called. So here's some resources that were used to help us figure this stuff out. I hope this was helpful for everybody, and good luck everyone this week. Thanks for paying attention.